Luo Zheng didn't care if he was demoted to a servant. He didn't care if he became a target for the disciples of the Luo clan. Even if the heaven and earth fortune pill that should have been his was taken by Luo Peiran, he still didn't care. However, his sister, Luo Yan, was his biggest weakness. Luo Yan was the only hope of the Luo clan. It was also because Luo Yan's talent was extremely high that she was accepted as an inner disciple of the Blue Cloud sect at the age of 13. She left the Luo clan and was able to survive the turmoil of the clan. In these 2 years, Luo Zheng didn't know any news about his sister because of his status as a servant. Now that he heard from Luo Peiran, his sister's situation seemed to be very bad. He immediately fell into endless worry. He even forgot to dodge when the disciples of the Luo clan beat him up. He took a few solid punches before he finally reacted. At night, Luo Zheng returned to the cellar with injuries all over his body. "This is your medicine." The steward of the Luo clan casually threw down a paper bag and retreated outside. After all, the human targets weren't made of steel. If they didn't have medicine to treat their injuries, they would die in a few days due to the accumulation of internal injuries. Therefore, the Luo clan would distribute medicine to these human targets every day. However, these medicines were all ordinary medicines and their healing effects weren't very good. Luo Zheng opened the paper bag and saw that there was only one pill inside. His face darkened and he angrily said, "Steward Fang. Why is there only one pill today? You should be thankful that there's enough for you to eat." "What? You think it's too little?" Steward Fang said indifferently. "The Luo clan distributes 3 healing pills every day. Now there's only one. It's obvious that you embezzled it. In the Luo clan, embezzlement is a serious crime. Steward Fang, aren't you afraid of death?" Luo Zheng shouted sternly, his eyes fixed on Steward Fang. "Hey, of course I'm afraid. However, I'm not afraid of a little servant like you." "What? You want to rebel? I just can't stand your attitude. You always think you're a master. Bah! Why don't you look in the mirror and see what you look like?" "Ha ha ha." Steward Fang's every word was ear-piercing. Hearing this, Luo Zheng calmed down. His clear eyes looked at Steward Fang indifferently, but there was a deep murderous intent hidden in his eyes, as if he was looking at a dead object. Seeing Luo Zheng's expression, Steward Fang felt a little scared. He walked up and poked Luo Zheng's chest with his hand. "You're not convinced? Why are you looking at me like that? Do you want to eat me?" Luo Zheng abruptly exerted strength in his chest. With a forceful shake, the force was transmitted to Steward Fang's body. Steward Fang immediately staggered and fell to the ground. You're just a mere servant. You want to rebel?" Steward Fang crawled up from the ground, his face full of panic. Luo Zheng took 2 steps forward and cracked his knuckles. He said sternly, "Even a steward with a different surname dares to be so arrogant. Do you really think I don't dare to touch you?" Seeing this, Steward Fang didn't want to stay here for a moment longer. He took to his heels and fled outside, closing the cellar's iron door with a bang. The actions of a lowly person. Luo Zheng sneered and shook his head. He was too lazy to argue with this kind of person. He quietly sat down and took out a match to light an oil lamp. He hastily flipped through a few pages of a book. He was worried about his sister, Luo Yan. How could he read with such an impatient heart? "I can't stay in the Luo family any longer. But my strength is only in the flesh-refining realm. Let alone going to the Blue Cloud sect, I can't even take half a step out of the Luo family's cellar." Luo Zheng walked quickly in the narrow cellar. His chest was heaving up and down like a trapped beast that couldn't find an exit. Strength. My strength is still too weak. Otherwise, how could a small Luo family trap me? But in this world, cultivation is done step by step, one step at a time. Now that I'm a servant, I have to be a human target every day. I have no time to cultivate. If this continues, I'll be beaten to death sooner or later. The more he thought about it, the more anxious he became. He cast his gaze on the table. The shabby heavenly Tao constitution quietly lay there. This kind of broken book has a lot of principles, but it's useless to me. What's the point of reading it? Luo Zheng bitterly picked up the book and tore it from the middle. He put it on the oil lamp and burned it to the ground. The bean-sized flame instantly ignited the book, emitting a raging flame. Looking at the book gradually burning, Luo Zheng's heart gave birth to a trace of regret. He complained, "Luo Zheng, oh Luo Zheng, why must you vent your anger on a book? This book teaches people to be good. What's wrong with being sensible and knowing shame? What's wrong is that you're weak and can only be manipulated by others, like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered." Unfortunately, the fire was fierce and the book had already turned into a pile of ashes. Just as he was feeling vexed, Luo Zheng suddenly saw a ray of golden light among the ashes. Huh? What's this? Luo Zheng brushed the ashes aside and picked up the ray of golden light. He found a thin piece of gold leaf. When he flipped through the book before, he didn't find this piece of gold leaf. Presumably, this piece of gold leaf was hidden in the middle of the book. What's the use of a mere piece of gold leaf? In this world, there was no lack of gold. Especially for a big family like the Luo family, gold was as cheap as dirt. However, when Luo Zheng's gaze focused on the gold leaf, something strange happened. On the gold leaf, there were densely engraved characters. These characters were shaped like tadpoles. Luo Zheng didn't recognize a single one of them. Under his gaze, this piece of gold leaf quickly disintegrated into thousands of small pieces of gold leaf. Each small piece of gold leaf was engraved with a tadpole character. These small pieces of gold leaf stuck to Luo Zheng. On his face, in his eyes, neck, arms, body, legs. Every part of Luo Zheng's body was covered with these small pieces of gold leaf. The last small piece of gold leaf shot directly into Luo Zheng's brain. Luo Zheng's whole body trembled violently as if he was hit by a big hammer. At the same time, the small pieces of gold leaf on his body shone brightly. When the golden light gradually faded, these thousands of small pieces of gold leaf also quietly disappeared into Luo Zheng's body. Some memories appeared in his mind out of nowhere, some memories that didn't belong to him. The supreme refining method. The #1 refining method of all time. Using the body as the tool, using my own body as the spirit, refining and cleansing my body, I can become the Hongmeng. This was a refining method? Although Luo Zheng didn't know how to refine, he knew that refining was a highly sought-after profession. Even with the Luo family's strong financial resources, they still couldn't recruit the lowest-level refining master. It was obvious that refining masters were in high demand. But using the body as the tool, what did this mean? Could it be, this refining method was to refine one's own body into a magic weapon? This unbelievable conjecture quickly became a reality. He suddenly found that his body began to heat up unceasingly, just like a fever. His temperature rose sharply. So hot. If this went on, his whole body would be roasted. In a hurry, he rushed to the end of the cellar where there was a water tank. This water tank was for Luo Zheng to get water from. Without even thinking, he jumped into the water tank. Sizzle. Steam billowed out from the water tank. After a while, the water in the tank was evaporated by his body temperature. The whole cellar was filled with mist. So much water, but Luo Zheng's body temperature didn't drop. Instead, it got higher and higher. His skin emitted a dark red light, just like a piece of red-hot iron. In the end, he spun around twice in the same place, and then fell into the cellar full of mist. In Luo Zheng's mind, an inconceivable change was taking place. In his mind, a huge furnace suddenly appeared. The furnace was dark green, and there were 9 dragon carvings on the walls of the furnace. Each of the dragon reliefs had a different color. There were cyan, black, white, purple. These dragon reliefs were baring their fangs and brandishing their claws, looking very lifelike. 8 of the dragons had their eyes closed. Only the eyes of the bottommost Qinglong were open, staring at Luo Zheng. That Qinglong's eyes seemed to have settled down for tens of millions of years. Looking at Luo Zheng indifferently, he felt a great power. Ge. Under the gaze of the dragon eyes, Luo Zheng's soul was constantly trembling. Soon, cracks appeared on his soul body, showing signs of collapse. Just as Luo Zheng's soul was about to collapse, a dragon roar came from Qinglong's mouth. Then, the huge furnace started to rotate, and a strange flame ignited in the furnace. It was a black flame. In this world, there was actually a flame of this color, which seemed to be able to burn everything in the world. Before Luo Zheng could exclaim in surprise, the huge furnace came down on his head, and the raging black flame immediately wrapped around his soul. The pain of the soul being burned was not something an ordinary person could endure. However, Luo Zheng was in a soul state, so he couldn't even faint. He could only grit his teeth and bear the pain. Let me die. At this moment, Luo Zheng only wanted to die to relieve this pain. But for him, even death was an extravagant hope. He was in a soul state, so he couldn't bite his tongue to commit suicide. Every time his soul couldn't hold on, it would shatter and be annihilated. Suddenly, the furnace would emit a 7-colored light, which immediately repaired Luo Zheng's soul. In this way, it was burned, shattered, repaired, burned again, shattered again, repaired again. Over and over again, endlessly. This pain of hovering between life and death lasted for an unknown amount of time, but in the end, it stopped. Finally, it's over. Luo Zheng let out a long sigh. Thinking of the pain just now, he still had a lingering fear. At the same time, he found that his soul was emitting a faint golden light. After a long time, he separated from his mind and slowly woke up. In his mind, the huge furnace had stopped rotating, but the black flame in the furnace didn't go out. It was just that the fire was restrained, so it didn't look so terrible. Luo Zheng already understood that his soul and body had been tempered by the furnace just now. The world was big, and there were all kinds of strange things. Some refining masters used all kinds of strange methods to refine weapons. Some refining masters didn't hesitate to kill people and collect human blood to refine magic weapons. There were even some who sealed a person's soul into a weapon, turning it into an evil weapon. However, this refining method was actually to refine one's own body into a magic weapon. This method was unheard of. It was really too crazy. Fortune and misfortune lay in wait. After calming down, Luo Zheng also thought it through. This kind of thing happened to him, so it wasn't necessarily a bad thing. The magic weapons in this world were divided into 5 stages: profound weapon, spiritual weapon, immortal weapon, sacred weapon, divine weapon, and grand mist spiritual treasure. Each stage was also divided into high, middle, and low grades. Luo Zheng's body had just been refined into a magic weapon, which was only the lowest grade of profound weapon. Using the grade of a magic weapon to describe himself was indeed a very strange thing. Luo Zheng's face showed a trace of a bitter smile. Looking out from the cellar's only vent, the sky was already bright. Unknowingly, he had been tormented for an entire night. It was strange that after a sleepless night, he didn't feel the slightest bit tired. Instead, he was in high spirits, and his spirit was very good. Moreover, at this moment, his mood had also calmed down, and he didn't feel as anxious as last night. The principle in the book was right. Every sip and every bite was predetermined. Only by stabilizing the state of mind could one face things